doing what I do, I have the habit of combing through different sources of news media, and not just on, the conservative right, but also the middle ground and even the far left. I like to have all different viewpoints and perspectives so I can bring the news to you guys. Sometimes it's breaking news and I try to get it out there before everybody else, like everybody else, but most of the time I look for stuff that nobody else is advertising. Important or controversial information that doesn't seem to be getting much attention in the mainstream, which is what the Just the Tip segments are really about. So keeping that in mind, I'd like to address a little problem that's been going on lately. Something rather strange occurred a few weeks back and nobody seems to be noticing. Almost simultaneously, every media source from the extreme right to the far left released similar articles. All written by different writers, obviously, but they all carried a very similar message, which I found very eerie. The message being, we need to stop bashing Donald Trump. Now, every president since the dawn of comedy shows in the 70s has been under the knife, make no mistake.
Each other. The left hand now knows what the right hand is doing.
But Donald Trump not only rivals, but surpasses Richard Nixon when it comes to being the butt of everybody's jokes. The conservative programs do so fairly lightly, let's be honest here. The same way David Letterman used to take shots at the president. Just good old-fashioned, wholesome fun. But the liberal-minded have a habit of aiming below the belt on every possible occasion, whether they agree with the president or not. These articles pointed out not so much that Trump doesn't deserve the attacks, but how the Liberal Party is beginning to look to the rest of the country. Media sources across the world are now seeing liberals as hateful, unreasonable, and yes, even fascist. Us libertarians, however, know there is a difference between liberals and leftists. In fact, the liberal movement has recently began separating themselves from the far left, a memo that CNN and MSNBC somehow didn't receive. Or so it would seem anyway. Both companies did in fact release a similar article, at the bottom of every other story, not headlined on their main homepage like everybody else. So what does this tell us? Somewhere along the line, someone at the top of the pyramid realized that the Liberal Party is in fact eating itself to death, as the rest of the country continue to put liberal-minded people in the same basket as the far left. That's what's happening. This is a direct result of fake news, over-exaggerated or under-exaggerated claims, and the tendency to sympathize with the far left, even criminal groups for fuck's sakes. For example, CNN has been known to sympathize with Antifa, an activist group hell-bent on the promotion of communist ideals. You can usually spot these walking shit stains with their trademark black clothing, and they're almost always covering their face because they're fucking cowards. But if you find yourself out at a rally or a protest, just look for the people calling everyone and anybody that disagrees with them a Nazi. It's really easy to find them. Very hypocritical considering their communist agenda. Their answer to politics is simple. Donald Trump is Hitler and Stalin over Hitler, even though he technically killed a hell of a lot more people. Stalin's genocide wasn't racially motivated, of course. So Antifa will commonly be seen with some sort of paraphernalia, with the anti-Nazi symbol somewhere on them. When these companies aren't sympathizing for Antifa, it's MS-13, the most ruthless and inhumane sect of organized crime to ever infect the United States of America. Now I want to make something perfectly clear. Before I release anything to any of you guys, I always check my sources. Yeah, I might have screwed up once or twice before, but I always own it up like I am right now. The last thing I want to do is contribute to the spreading of fake news. So I want to be abundantly clear here. The reason why the majority of my information comes from Fox News is because they are more reliable. I kid you not. Though there certainly is bias there, don't get me wrong. They are rarely unfactual, and simply don't exaggerate unnecessarily. Sometimes their guests do, obviously, but they can hardly control that. The first time I heard Donald Trump call out CNN for being fake news, I honestly thought this was an unfair judgment, until I started paying attention, and realized that he was actually spot on. Fox might have been similar at one point, but when the fake news allegations blew up in the light of Donald Trump, they quickly got their act together, something that CNN and MSNBC completely ignored. They ignored it because they knew that their left-leaning followers were too naive or ignorant to fact-check, and they were correct in their assumptions, at least for the extremists anyway. The intelligent liberal fact-checked their information and moved on, while the extreme didn't bother to check their sources. They're too fucking lazy. They want to be heard one perspective and they don't want to be convinced of anything else. But in the end, the good people will always suffer for the ignorance of the few. Now personally, I used to call myself a liberal back in the day, believe it or not. Back when it actually made sense. I'm sure a lot of you people out there can relate. Back when liberalism was about exactly that, liberating the oppressed. In 2018, liberalism has turned into libertarianism, along with middle ground conservatism, and the far left remain extreme. Had the left not intertwined liberal morality with disastrous concepts like identity politics, communism, and the desperate attempt to make Trump look like a fool by sympathizing for MS-13 and Antifa, I dare say that the liberals might have actually had a chance of taking the presidency the next time around. This is something that most true liberals are well aware of, which is why they pleaded to have the Trump bashing stop immediately, but CNN and MSNBC simply won't have it. They won't be satisfied until the entire political movement is destroyed, which is a shame. Seriously, I'm not being sarcastic. Back in the day when I used to relate to honorable liberals like Christopher Hitchens, I would have hated these networks for what they're doing to the political party. Now, in its place, a new movement of libertarian ideals are growing in its stead, picking up old-school liberal values and meshing them with new conservative values. Christopher Hitchens clearly would have shifted political parties in this current climate. There's no denying that, much like the rest of us libertarians out there. But who is to blame here? Well, there are many responsible for this, but the core of the issue, if you look closely enough, is Barack Obama. Had he addressed the Black Lives Matter issue when the problem arose in the first place, in his home state no less, the racial issues in America wouldn't be nearly as divided. Had he not hired Hillary Clinton as his Secretary of State when he was elected, or endorsed her when she did announce her run, she wouldn't have had the foundation to run in the first place, and Bernie Sanders would have probably been president, considering the amount of people who voted for Trump simply because Clinton was insane. Blaming Obama, of course, is the easy way out. And the explanation runs much deeper, but among the guilty for the fall of the Liberal Party is of course Hillary Clinton, CNN, MSNBC, the New York Times, and the delusion of Hollywood, California, and the bullshit values they promote in their industry. There was a time when sleeping with someone on the first date was considered immoral. Being a druggy gangster meant you were a bad guy, and claiming idealistic falsehoods despite reasonable evidence meant you were a nut job. But Hollywood shows us different, and we followed suit, didn't we? They tried to use this influence on us once again, playing the same tired old tactics of feeding you the same bullshit over and over again to win your vote. Clinton got the Avengers to endorse her and still lost. Think about that for a moment. The highest grossing films of all time couldn't get the bitch elected. She pulled out all the stops, but America is not so easily fooled. Whether you're a fan of Trump or not, if you're American, you should be proud that the nation was at least intelligent enough not to reach for what was, mercilessly shoved down our fucking throats. That gives me true and genuine hope for tomorrow. And I'm proud to call you my neighbor, America. I truly am. America is finally waking up. Now, if only my Canadian government can take a cue from Trump. We could get back some of the freedoms we used to have before happy PC SJW Trudeau got his fruity little fingers on our legislation. Trump isn't always going to be the answer, of course. But right now, in this moment of history, he's the best hope we got. Tomorrow may be a different story. So conservatives out there, I must implore that you not let the guilty and the extreme dictate the future of the reasonable and sane. There are good, liberal-minded people out there, make no mistake about it. Liberals that still believe in traditional liberal values and can settle on happy medians and believe in compassion and accountability. They're just called libertarians now. That's all I have to say about it for today. I'd love to hear your opinion on it, so, shoot me a comment, a message, whatever. If you're a fan, don't forget to ring that bell, subscribe, all that stuff. Same old YouTube bullshit you hear with every fucking video. Don't forget I'm an author, and I'm also a musician, if I haven't said that before. So I'm going to actually have an album being released pretty soon, but that'll come later with the book and other stuff. So just thought I'd announce that little tidbit of information for you. So if you like good music, I'm going to shoot some free samples to my subscribers. Yeah. But anyway, guys, don't forget that everybody out there is just as human as you are, so keep fighting the good fight, and remember you have a heart, and they have a heart, and everybody is human. Thanks again for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time. Take care.